Hey, what's up? It's Frank here from Data Driven, the podcast where we explore the emerging fields of data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So I'm here in front of Barnes & Noble's new location in Rockville, Maryland, and apparently it is the prototype for the new store design. And if you look at it, and I took a picture inside that I'll post on the actual post, but if you look at it, and I see a question come in that, yes, the reason why I didn't stream in the store is because social distancing and the mask and stuff like that. So anyway, if you look at it, it's very reminiscent of the Amazon physical bookstores, which I think is very telling in a lot of ways. And first off, this is the new location across the street, across Rockville Pike from their old location, and it's a lot smaller. It's about half the size, maybe even 40% the size, which I think is just the sad state of retail. And this is the first time I've been, if you know me personally, and you know me like a lot, like I love bookstores, right? I'm just a nerd, right? So I love going to bookstores. I haven't been to a bookstore since the start of the pandemic. So I think the last bookstore I was in actually was Get Off the Road. That's a blooper. So the last bookstore I think I physically was in was a Barnes & Noble, and then prior to that it was the Amazon physical bookstore in Seattle or in Bethesda. I have to look at the dates, but anyway, it's just very interesting. If you look inside, the space is smaller. It's lit and designed. My son says it looks like a maze. I don't know about that, but it definitely has a lot of the look of the Bethesda or the physical bookstores that Amazon has. It's bright, it's tan, it's very very modern. It doesn't have that kind of that dark oak. It has a lighter look. All the chairs, unfortunately, are gone thanks to social distancing, but still, it was nice to go. I actually did pick up a couple books. It was funny because, like, this week I finished the 52nd book for 2020, and I'm looking around. I'm like, oh yeah, I read that one. Oh, I read that one. So I'll show what I picked up in a minute. But I think it's interesting that you see Barnes & Noble, who was the king of book retail, undisputed king, right? Full disclosure, I used to work at Barnes & Noble. I revamped their magazine ordering system in the 90s, and then I ended up being the first webmaster at what would become BarnesandNoble.com. And so it's interesting to see how this has changed to where the student, if you will, the Jeff Bezos, the Amazon, has become the master, and Barnes & Noble is now imitating them. And I think it turns the corner. And also, if you look at the way things are broken out, this is Rockville, right? It's a suburb of Washington, D.C., so there's not really going to be quite as much technical book content. So the technical book content was very short, very small in the store. But I have to think that just like the Amazon store, the contents, the actual inventory of the store is very data-driven, right? No pun intended, or maybe pun intended, I don't know. So I have to think that, and I was talking to the clerk, and it's saying how long it's been open. So she told me that this is the template for the new type of store. Then it's the first one nationwide. And I think she also said that they have a new CEO from England and things like that. And so we had an interesting chat. But too interesting. One, a bookstore in a pandemic is not quite the same experience, but it is what it is.
Can I go?
The second thing is I just find it very interesting that they've now copied the template from an online upstart. You know, this just would have been unthinkable when I was at BarnesandNoble.com. This would have been, the CEO of Barnes & Noble in a meeting told me, because I said we needed to launch by holiday season 1996. Even if we weren't ready, right? We can mitigate that. We can say, we can cut off orders after we hit our limit. And he turned to me and said, go back to your computers. You don't know nothing about selling books. And apparently neither did he. If you the most enlightening book I've read this year has probably been The Everything Store, and it's about Jeff Bezos. And there's definitely segments in there where they talk about the initial competition with Barnes and Noble. Let me tell you, man, the analysis was spot on. 10 years later, they made the same mistake with the Kindle. When I say they, I mean Barnes and Noble made the mistake of assuming they knew better than Jeff Bezos. Yes, they did come out with the Nook and things like that, but you know, that short-sightedness, or that, you know, they knew they were really good at selling books in the pre-internet age. In the post-internet age, the rapid business cycle, the rapid turnaround, the change in the book buying market, I think got them completely off guard. Twice, not once, but twice. Once with the websites, that kind of battle, and second with the rise of ebooks. You know, and that book really lays it bare. It's a great audiobook. I listened to it on my vacation. It was awesome. It was very much, in some ways, a validation, because when the CEO of a company kind of singles you out and tells you to go back to writing Code Boy and websites, kind of sticks with you, even 20 years later. But with that having been said, you know, I still love Barnes & Noble. I wish them well. I hope they do well. The competition is good in the book space. There's just still something about going to a bookstore in person and getting something physical right away that is hard to replicate. And clearly Amazon's onto that too, because they have, you know, a couple of physical stores to experiment with. But in any case, speaking of 25 years ago, franksworld.com actually was launched just before I started working at Barnes & Noble. So it's a little bit of history. And with that, I should probably make sure before the sugar crash hits, I go back to watching the kids. Do not climb on the trash can.